Hi again, boys and girls. It's Miss Bader for this week's yoga video. Wanted to start off today with a quick meditation. And you'll remember meditation is when we try and clear out some of those thoughts that swirl around in our heads, kind of like monkeys swinging through the jungle, and our minds just go from one thought to the next, just like monkeys swinging from the trees in the jungle. Anyway, this one is called either metta meditation, or some people also call it loving kindness meditation. Either way, it's the same thing. And I think I'm going to do kind of a shortened version of it, and maybe at home or on your own, or maybe at night if you're having a hard time falling asleep, you can try this in your head, work through it on your own. Anyway, find a comfortable place to sit. Can be like I'm sitting in Sukhasana, which is easy pose, or crisscross applesauce. You can also sit in Virasana, which is what I'm doing now. Either way, you want to be sitting up nice and tall, your back nice and straight. You can be lying down for this. Any way that you are, the best way you can be comfortable. And when you get there, you're going to close your eyes. You're going to focus on clearing out as many thoughts as you can, knowing, of course, that you cannot clear everything out. There's always going to be some thoughts. We just try not to assign any judgment to those thoughts and just kind of let them float off and not get upset at ourselves if we're not able to clear out those thoughts. So anyway, with your eyes closed, you can either just listen to my words and focus on them, or you can repeat them in your head rather than saying them out loud. But we want to kind of focus on the words that I'm saying. So first we start off by focusing inward. So we are going to direct these statements towards ourselves. So we start off by saying, may I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free from harm. Or there's lots of different versions of that. I may switch back and forth. May I be happy. May I be free. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering. Then we want to expand that out from just thinking about ourselves. We want to float that idea out to our family, our brothers, our sisters, moms, dads, grandparents, anybody who we love, anybody in our lives that we love a lot. And we want to think to ourselves, may they be happy. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. May they be happy. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. We want to expand out even further. We go from ourselves to those we love and our families, and then we want to move out to friends, teachers, anyone we care about. May they be happy. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. May they be happy. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. Then moving a little fast, and ideally you would do this much slower. And then you want to keep expanding out. You want to keep sending that message out to more and more people. So we started with ourselves, we went to those in our family, we went out to those people we know and care about, teachers, friends. And then we want to go out to even people we don't know, people in our community. Maybe someone at Foothill who we've seen before, but we don't really know them. Maybe somebody you see at the grocery store. Anybody, and then just keep going out and out. And it's beyond Saratoga, beyond California, and out. And eventually, we want to include everybody. We want to include the whole universe in these loving kindness thoughts. So may they be happy. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. May everyone be safe. May everyone be free from suffering. We're going to go ahead and come out of the meditation, move into the asana part of our practice, which is the part when we do our poses. So it's the physical part of yoga. What we just did with our meditation was more of the mind part of yoga. There's lots of different components besides just doing downward dog and all the poses that we've done together. So we're going to start out on your tabletop. I always like to start out with cat-cow because it's a really good way to bring some flexibility into your whole spine. And our spines go from right here at the base of our skull, so kind of where our head attaches to our neck, and it goes all the way down to our tailbone. It doesn't get a lot of movement, especially when we're sitting at our desks all day looking at screens. So cat-cow really gives us mobility through the length of our spine. So we're going to work moving with our breath. So inhale, belly drops, chin and tailbone up to the sky for cow. Exhale, tuck chin, tuck tailbone, round your back. See how high you can get it for cat. Inhale, belly drops, chin and tailbone up to the sky. Exhale, tuck chin, tuck tailbone, round your back. Inhale, belly drops, chin and tailbone up to the sky. And we'll do one more round. Exhale, tuck chin, tuck tailbone, round your back. Inhale, belly drops. And we're going to come to a flat back, making sure that our fingers are spread wide. We're gripping the mat with our knuckles and our fingertips, making kind of like a tiger paw, because that takes, when we spread our fingers and we grip with knuckles and fingertips, we're taking the pressure and some of the weight off of our wrists, because downward dog can sometimes put a lot of weight and pressure on our wrists. And if you look down at your wrists right now, so those are some pretty small bones in your body. So they're not really designed to take all that much weight. So moving your knees back a couple inches, tuck your toes. Your toes are on the mat. Heels are pointed up to the sky. We're going to inhale, hips up and back for a downward facing dog. Take a couple of pedal movements. So you're going to walk your dog, keeping toes on the mat, bending one knee at a time and then the other so that your heels come up off the mat, but your toes stay just where they are. And you should feel a stretch along the backs, in your calves right here. And then we're going to stop and we're going to go into three-legged dog. So either one, I'm going to lift my left leg up to the sky. I'm going to keep my leg nice and straight. Both legs are straight. And then I'm going to go into fire hydrant. I'm going to bend that knee. I'm going to open up to the side. I'm going to look under. For me, I'm looking under my left armpit. I'm going to lower that foot. And I'm going to lift my right foot up to the sky. I'm going to bend that knee. I'm going to open up and I'm going to look at underneath my right arm. I'm going to lower that foot. I'm going to walk up to the front of my mat. Push into my feet. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. And hands at my heart, and that is Anjali Mudra. I know there's an Anjali out there. So we call anything we do in yoga with our hands in a yoga asana or a yoga pose, we call that a mudra. So probably some other mudras you've seen is when index finger and thumb come together. That is a mudra. Any of the fingers meeting with your thumb, those are all different mudras. When your hands are together at your heart, that is what we call Anjali Mudra. All right. And we're going to remember our mountain pose. Mountain pose is a foundation pose. Feet are together, legs are strong. Quadriceps, these big muscles in your thighs, are strong and engaged. And then you're going to move your shoulders away from, and I know the top of my head is cut off. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll step back. Shoulders away from your ears. Shoulder blades are going to hug together on your back. Make your arms nice and strong, palms facing forward. And your whole body should be engaged. All your muscles should be working. And you should feel nice and steady so that if somebody were to come and try and push you over, you would be able to resist that and just stay strong in your mountain. All right, hold, 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 hold. And release everything. Now, if you have a yoga mat, you're going to stand in the center of your yoga mat. If you're just on the floor, center of your space. Hopefully, I know Miss Lowe talked about boundaries, so hopefully you've got your boundaries set up. And now you're going to either step or hop to a wide-legged stance. I'm going to step, but you may also hop. My feet are parallel, so my toes are pointed straight ahead. My heels are pointing straight back. My legs are strong, and you don't want to go so far that it hurts, but you do want to feel a little bit of a stretch here. Bring your hands to your hips. We're going to hinge forward at your hips, keeping a nice straight back, and you're going to lower, 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 lower. And bring your hands down underneath you. You can walk them out a little bit. We're going to add a twist here, so it might work a little better if your hands are a little bit out in front. And if you feel like it once you get here, if you want to widen your stance, you can kind of push your feet out a little wider. You want to take one hand, and I'm going to move my right hand into kind of the center, so it's kind of equidistant between my feet. So there should be somewhat of an equal space between each foot to this hand, okay? So I'm going to leave one hand here in the middle, and then I'm going to lift my other arm up to the sky, and I'm going to twist my torso. You should feel a little bit of stretch in the back of your hamstrings, the back of this leg here. And you want to see how much you can turn your torso so that it's facing that wall out. For me, it's out to, towards if I point my left arm straight out from the side, I want to have my torso go towards that direction with my arm up to the sky. Keeping legs straight and strong, engaging these muscles. And then we're going to switch. You're going to bring, for me, it's my left. For you, it might be the other one. I'm going to bring that left hand down in between my 2 feet. And I'm going to open up to the right side. Right hand reaching up to the sky. My torso is turning towards the right, and it's facing that wall. In my case, my closet door. Strong legs, strong arms. And let's lower that hand. And we are going to, you can either step or hop your feet together. I'm going to do hopping this time. So I've got both hands down on the mat, and I'm going to hop my feet together. Then I'm going to bring my hands to my hips, elbow tips facing up to the sky. I'm going to push into my feet, and with a flat back, I'm going to rise all the way up, cutting my head off in the screen. Step back a little bit. We're going to do what's called Utkatasana. Utkatasana is the Sanskrit word for chair pose. I'm going to do it to the side so you can see a little bit you can see better what I'm doing. But my feet are together. You want to have your big toes touching, but maybe your heels just a tiny bit apart from each other. My mat so you can see me. So big toes touching, heels just slightly apart. And I'm going to pretend that there is an imaginary chair behind me. So I'm going to just go as if I'm going to sit down in that chair. So I'm going to bend my knees, and my arms are going to come up so they're on either side of my ears. And sometimes we tend to lean forward in this pose. So instead of doing that, maybe lift your toes up off the mat so that you put a little bit more weight in your heels. And if you can, maybe drop your hips down a little further. Use these quadriceps. And then like you're coming out of water, stand all the way up. Straighten your arms. Maybe lean back a little bit. And let's do it again. So sit back in that imaginary chair. Bend your knees. Keep your knees together. I forgot to mention this before, but you want to keep knees together so they're touching. Arms up, arms on either side of your ears. Maybe hips can drop a little lower. And come up out of water. Whoo, exhale, hands to heart, Anjali Mudra. Take a breather here. Let's take two rounds of breath. So deep inhale through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. One more time. Somebody coming down my hall. Inhale, arms up to the sky. Exhale, swan dive down to the mat into a forward fold. Fingertips on the mat, knees bent if you need to. Otherwise, if your hamstrings are feeling okay, you can keep your legs straight. But if you are bending your knees a little bit, that's still the pose. It's not like you're doing it wrong. And now I'm going to walk my hands forward. I'm going to step back to a plank. I'm going to hold this plank. I want us all to kind of see what a plank looks like before we move on to the next pose. So fingers are spread wide, gripping the mat with your tiger paw. Legs are straight and strong, shoulders away from ears. And then you're going to lower your knees, untuck your toes, lower all the way down. Let's go ahead, stack one hand on top of the other. Elbows are pointed out to the side. Rest one of your cheeks on your hands. Take a couple breaths here. And then maybe turn your head so the other cheek is resting. We're going to come up into Sphinx pose. So that is where we have our elbows on the mat. So we're resting on our forearms. Palms are on the mat or on the floor out in front of us. And push into your forearms. So we're creating just a little bit of a back bend, pushing into the tops of your feet. And while we're in the Sphinx pose, I'm going to talk about the next pose. And this next pose is a tricky one. It is an advanced pose. We're going to give it a try, and if it doesn't work for you today, it's not something we're going to get frustrated. We just know that that's something we can work on next time. You can work on it outside of class, you can work on it at home, but we're going to give it a try, and we're going to not be upset or frustrated or at all sad that we weren't able to get into it. We're just going to do our best. Maybe you get into it super easy, and that's great. Maybe it's not happening today, and that is perfectly all right. So I'm going to put my hands on either side of my chest. I'm going to tuck my toes. I'm going to come back up to a plank. I'm going to bring my feet together so my big toes are touching. I'm going to bring my right hand sort of in the center of my mat. I'm going to roll to the outside edge of my right foot. And I'm going to lift my hips. Left arm reaches up to the sky. If you want to bring your top foot down to make a kickstand, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm resting my left foot, the edge of my left foot, on top of my right foot. Lift my hips up. And then I'm going to come back down. I'm going to lower my knees. I'm going to come to a child's pose. I'm going to sit back on my heels, lower my forehead. Take a couple of breaths here. Do it again on the other side. So, to a tabletop. You're gonna move your knees back a little bit, tuck your toes, lift yourself back up to a plank, and then we're gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna bring my feet together. My legs are straight and strong. My arms are strong. I'm gonna roll to the outside of my left foot. Rest my right foot on top. Right arm up to the sky. You can take that top foot, rest it on the mat, use it as a kickstand, lift your hips up higher. Either way, whatever works for you in this pose. And wherever you are, lower that hand, bring the knees to the mat, sit back on your heels, lower your forehead. Maybe you want to try that version of child's pose that I talked about last week, which is you take your arms and you bring them in between your knees and rest your cheek on the mat. Or regular child's pose with arms out in front of you, forehead on the mat. That was a hard pose, so we might need a little breather here, which is why we're in child's pose. Come back to a tabletop. And gonna come back up to a plank, but we're not gonna stay here long. I know we've done a lot of planks. You'll lower your knees, come all the way down. I'm gonna need to scoot back because I need to give myself a little bit of room. Some of you will remember this pose. We call this Superman. So legs are stretched straight out, arms are stretched straight out, and you're gonna kind of be doing a karate chop on the floor almost. So fingers are pointed towards the wall in front of you. Your pinkies are on the floor. Untuck your toes and pushing into your hands. We're going to try this a little differently. So first we're going to do legs. So you're going to push into your hands, lift your legs up off the mat. Try not to bring your feet away from each other. Keep them as close as possible. And lower them down. Maybe get them super high, maybe just get them barely up off the ground. Either way. Then we're going to push into the tops of our feet. Good, and I'm not very good at this one. I'm going to lift my arms up. And lower down. Now we're going to add it all together, okay? So strong arms, strong legs, and lift up. Keeping legs straight, keeping arms straight. See how much. I know some of you can get up super high. I'm not up so high, so you go where it feels right and lower down. You can stack your hands, rest your cheek on top of your hands. Okay, I'm gonna come up. We're gonna do one more pose here on our bellies. So you're gonna bend one knee. I'm doing my left, and then I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to reach around, I'm going to hold onto the outside of my left foot. Then I'm going to bend my right knee, reach back with my right hand, hold onto my right foot. I'm going to kick my feet into my hands, lift my thighs up and my chest up off the mat. Try not to get your knees too wide. You want to keep them pretty close together. And see how much of your body you can get up off the mat. I know I've seen some of you go super high up. I'm not terribly high up. You do the best you can. You see where you can go. And lower down. Rest the opposite cheek on your hands. And now you're gonna roll over onto your backs. And unfortunately, we're not going into Shavasana yet. We're gonna do one or two more poses. We'll see what the time looks like. But you're gonna be on your back, knees are bent, feet are on the mat. This is called figure four. And if you are not quite sure which one is your left and right? That's okay. Just do your best. And if you don't get it, sometimes this one's hard for me to say in verbal cues. It's sometimes easier for me to show you in person, but we do the best we can with the videos these days. So you do the best you can, and if it doesn't quite make sense, that's okay. So I'm gonna lift my left knee up off, I'm gonna lift my left foot up off the mat, and I'm gonna open this left knee out to the side. I'm gonna rest my left ankle on top of my right knee. So if you kind of look down, you can see that your legs are almost making an upside down 4, which is why we call this figure 4. So then I'm gonna take my right arm, and it's gonna go on the outside of my right leg. My left arm is going to go in the middle, in between both legs, and into that, in the middle of that 4 that we're making. And I'm going to reach through, I'm going to hold on to the back of my left thigh. If you're really feeling this, you can kind of use your left elbow to push your left knee open wider, but if that doesn't make any sense, don't worry about it at all. But what you want to do is you want to keep both feet flexed. You're pushing out through the balls of your feet, and you're pulling this thigh that you're holding onto. For me, it's my right. I'm pulling it towards my body, and I'm feeling this in my left hip, my outer hip of the knee, of the leg that has the bent knee. You can straighten this leg if you want. You can keep it bent, whatever works. You want it to stretch. You do not want it to hurt. And we're going to lower down. Both feet back on the mat, knees bent. I'm going to lift my right foot. I'm going to open my right knee out to the side and rest my right ankle on top of my left knee. My right hand is going to reach in. I'm going to lift, first of all, lift my left foot up off the mat. Reach in between that space between my legs with my right hand. My left hand is going to come to the outside of my left leg. I'm going to clasp my hands as I hold on to the back of my left thigh. I'm hoping this makes sense, but if it doesn't, that's quite all right. You do whatever. You figure out, maybe figure out your own pose here. And I'm using my right elbow to push my right knee open wider, but that is totally optional. I'm using my hands to pull my left thigh in closer to my body. And let that go. Feet back on the mat. Straighten your legs slowly. And now we'll go into Shavasana. We'll skip the last pose. Go into Shavasana. I'm going to make sure I push everything out of the way so that I can have my arms long, stretched long next to my body. My palms are facing up to the sky. My legs are long and straight. My feet are kind of splayed out to the side because I'm not using my muscles to hold them up. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to let every part of my body just get heavy and relax into the mat, rest into the mat. Make sure my shoulders are away from my ears. Nice deep breaths here. You should feel your belly lift as you inhale and fall as you exhale. You should be very relaxed. We did some hard poses. You might be a little tired. Maybe this feels good. Try and avoid wiggling. Try and avoid moving your fingers and moving your legs and your head and your nose and your mouth. Just let everything get heavy. And I'm going to have it be somewhat of a shortened Shavasana, but any of these poses you can do at home on your own. You can take a super long Shavasana because I personally love Shavasana. I could stay in Shavasana for 10 minutes. I'm going to let you get back to class or whatever it is you're doing. So we come out gently, we wiggle fingers, we wiggle toes, bringing movement slowly back into our bodies. I'm going to lift my right arm up overhead and I'm going to rest it on the mat behind me. If you want to do your left, that's fine. Just know that it's going to be opposite to what I'm doing. I'm going to bend both of my knees one at a time. I'm going to roll to my right, resting my head on that right arm, using it as a pillow. I'm going to take a breath here. And then I'm going to place my left hand. And if you've gone and rolled to the other side, this is going to be opposite. You're going to be using your right hand to push up. Using my left hand, I'm going to push into the floor and I'm going to lift my body back up. I'm going to come back to Sukhasana or easy pose, or maybe Virasana, whichever is comfortable for you. And in Virasana, I don't know that I explained it earlier, but I've got my heels on either side of my hips. My knees are touching and my toes are pointing straight back behind me. I'm sitting up nice and tall. I'm not hunching into my lower back. I'm not rounding my lower back. I'm sticking my hips out so that there's a little bit of a curve in my lower back. We're going to close out today. So inhale, arms up to the sky. Exhale, hands to heart for Anjali Mudra. Bring your hands to your forehead to remember kind thoughts. We always want to have kind thoughts whenever possible. It's not always possible. Hands to your mouth to remember kind words whenever possible. Hands to your heart to remember kind actions. And namaste. All right, boys and girls. I hope that was a good practice. And have a great week. Let me know if you have any requests. And I will see you next week.